I'm Kathleen, and tonight Larry and I are here with Randy and Abby Jordan. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Hi.
So good to see you. Yeah, so good to see you. Thank you for joining us. We were talking right before this, saying this is our first father-daughter, so we're very excited about this.
Well, we're glad to be first at something, because normally we're last.
Oh, I hear you. Well, I always try to think of where I've met you or how I've worked with you. I don't really remember meeting you, but Randy, you and I were actually in a show recently, although we never even spoke to each other, and that was that bingo that was Patsy Clark wrote.
Oh, yeah.
So that was great. I totally enjoyed watching you.
I enjoyed watching you tapping. That was a good role.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And that was a very unique process to me and to all of us.
Thank God for a little creative release in these times.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And then Abby, you were in a play of mine, a Christmas play. I don't know what year it was, but it was in Apex, and it was called Nanny Claus.
Yes.
And you played Mrs. Claus.
Yes.
Yeah. I loved it. I loved it. Yeah. And they had so many fabulous songs that don't try to mention them to me, or they'll be in my head for the rest of the night. So
I actually am still friends with several of the kids that were in that show, and like have enjoyed watching them, as they grow up and their creative endeavors and stuff like that. It's been really neat.
It's very difficult to beat the voice of Rebecca Leonard.
Oh, yes, that's right. Rebecca was Nanny Claus. That's right. That's right.
Who I'm convinced she's gonna look like Catherine Freeman in about 40 years. Probably only Randy knows who I'm talking about. There's something about her. She looks like a young Kathleen Freeman.
That's hysterical. So Randy, you first. When did you get the acting bug? And then when did you move to directing? Because I know you've done a lot of that as well.
Okay. Let's see. My mother and I moved from Oklahoma City to Kansas City when I was in the 6th grade, and I think that following summer, probably between 6th and 7th grade, I went to a large outdoor theater there called Starlight, and this will give away my age. I saw Donald O'Connor in Little Me, Cab Calloway in Porgy and Bess, and Sid Charisse in Damn Yankees. Wow. And I was always the kid in the choir who was singing just a little too loudly. I was bashful. I was very shy, but I loved to sing, and I sang too loud. But when I saw those guys, I thought, well, I'd like to do that someday. I was a junior in high school before I ever gave it a try. Directing for me came, first in church situations, because we spent a lot of time in churches. I pastored for a while and that kind of thing. And then when I actually quit community theater for about a 35-year period. And when I came back, out of the blue came a couple offers to direct. At first, I kind of said, I don't know. And then I'd had some, experience in directing people, like I said, in the church situation. I, in fact, put together a little church group, drama team that traveled all over Iowa and Minnesota. And so after that, I thought, well, maybe I can do this. And so we got started. And I first directed a production I wanted to do locally and produced it, lost my shirt, but had a lot of fun. And then one of the area theaters asked me to direct in 2015. And
it's all been history since then, right?
Yeah. And, they would come to me with Death of a Salesman for my first effort. So.
Wow.
I came so close to auditioning for that show.
Yeah, me too. I told them, Larry, when they asked me to direct, I said, you're going to have to give me a few days because I have to decide whether I'd rather do Loman or direct Loman. Right. So I actually held off a couple of days, finally told them, okay, I'll do it.
I bet.
What you're supposed to do is what a lot of directors do is cast somebody else, then fire them 2 weeks before the show. I got to go on as Willie. What can I do?
There was enough casting of people in that show anyway, so
that's another.
Abby, how about you?
Well, honestly, from him. I mean, like, I can't remember a time that I didn't want to participate. I mean, like, I remember, like he mentioned the team that he had traveling in Iowa and Minnesota. They did a lot of mime, and so as a child, I was fascinated by the clowning and stuff like that. I remember doing skits in church and in school and stuff like that. I mean, it was just never a question for me. Like in junior high, when I started junior high in Houston, Texas, you got to choose between 3 different tracks: orchestra, band, speech, and theater. And I did band, which I love, and I am still musically involved. But I also knew I wanted to do speech, and so as soon as they allowed us to have 2 electives, I immediately added it. And I mean, like, I started doing, was in radio. I started doing readings for him on air when I was 3 years old.
Wow.
So I mean, like, it has just always been something I wanted to do.
In your bones.
She had a very natural ability. She has an older sister, and I could take her older sister in front of the mic and say, "Okay, I need you to say this," and it would take multiple takes to get it done. But with Abby, I'd say it this way. First time, boom, she would slam it home. Oh, Dad, you're in trouble now.
Yeah. But yeah, always something I wanted to do. I love it.
Well, there's so many great child performers on television right now. And I think about when I was that age, there's no way I could have acted. I just think it takes a lot of confidence and a lot of intelligence to be a really good child actor. So obviously you had that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't know about that, but but I tried. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I didn't get super involved until like junior high and high school and stuff like that, but it was just always there.
That's great.
So Randy and then Abby, what was the first show you were actually in? Not maybe high school, but when somebody had to come and see you guys in a show and pay for tickets. And
the first show I did would have been in my high school years, but with a company in Kansas City called Academy Theater Company. And the first show would have been a Thurber Carnival, and I did 7 parts in it, which was more than anybody in the cast at that time, including The Night the Bed Fell, the long monologue. So I had a great time with that.
Oh, that's great.
For me, I did a lot of tech work with the community theater in Rogers, Arkansas, when I was in high school. So the first show that I was that I was part of, that you would have had to pay to see, I ran lights for Sex, Love, and the IRS, which is a romantic comedy, and I had a lot of fun with that. The first show that I was in, at least on the community theater level or anything like that, was in Norman, Oklahoma. I was in 12th Night, and I played Maria.
Oh, nice. Nice. I actually went to a wedding in Norman, Oklahoma years ago. Yeah. See that? Small world.
I'm a Sooner. He's the Sooner born. I'm the Sooner bred. I graduated from Oklahoma in 2004. So
Norman, the flattest place on earth.
Right. So did either of you have a mentor?
My high school drama teacher was a guy named Robert Lane, and he was initially my mentor for the couple of years. He was also a guy who he worked 9 months out of the year at school, and then the summer he drove taxi. But my junior and senior years, he let about 20 or 30 of us, I can't remember, get together, and I can't remember, we paid him $50 or $75, and we produced 2 shows each summer instead of him driving taxi. That's the way he made his living in the summer. And so he was a very good mentor. This was the late 60s, and he introduced us to the method and memory recall and getting outside of our bodies and, feeling and experiencing things. And our parents were probably ready to kill him. But he was, he was a very creative guy. And those summer shows, a Thurber Carnival was one of them. And the next year we did Marat Sade. And I played Coulier.
That's great.
I mean, it probably goes without saying that my mentor is my dad. And he's, I mean, he's been directing me since I was little. So I have just learned a lot from him. And I don't know, I mean, I'm still in touch with my high school drama teacher. Her name is Ellen Stubbs. But she was kind of hands off with our group. When I was in high school, I happened to be in a class that was very competitive in the local high school speech and drama stuff. But we were all very take charge on that. Like she was just like, okay, you want to do this, you go do it. And so for any kind of acting advice or anything like that, I generally came to him. And over the years, he's taught me that always read the script before you audition. You don't want to get caught, into something that you didn't want to do or that you're not able to do. Always, if you've read the script, then words have meaning, and you have to get your lines before you can do any kind of character building. I'm trying to think here. Take them as they come in terms of auditioning. That like I have never lived in an area like the Triangle that is so rich in opportunity. I mean,
That's
seriously,
great.
and we've lived a lot of places, and I just have never had as much opportunity to be part of theater as I have here in North Carolina. And so then you kind of auditions you can spread thin, and so you have to take it as they come. Go, and if you get offered a part and you want to hold off just in case you get this other one, well, you might regret that decision.
Yeah.
So take it as you come.
Well, that's a lot of fabulous advice. Randy, how about you? Did you get any great advice about acting or directing?
I did. He told me, don't act, listen and be in the moment, in character. And that went a long ways for me, because we all get caught up in our own lines and what we're doing. And at first just being on stage, kind of just takes over. But, he taught me to listen to what was going on, to listen to the other actors and to be in the moment in character. And that again went a long ways. And one of the things she mentioned was, I've always said, words have meaning, but characters have intent. And I think that came out of learning to listen and really, take a look at what the character was doing in the moment.
Thank you.
Can you guys tell us one of you who your favorite theater or film actor may be?
My favorite for many, many years, and I'm dating myself, but was Dustin Hoffman, at least before he got to the place where it was, oh yeah, give me the million and I'll do the part.
Right.
And same way with De Niro. I'm out of that De Niro, Pacino, Hoffman era. But Hoffman, I think, is just, he was never a movie star where he was the same in every film. No, that's not him. He was an actor, different in every film. You watch Little Big Man where he does 5 parts, and it's just incredible. He has to yell for an hour to get his voice where he wants it. I just loved his work, and so that's probably my favorite. Lately, I like Edward Norton.
Yeah.
And done some incredible work, and there are many others on film. And I'm not thinking of stage actors, but at the moment, but I'm sure there would be some.
I was going to say, with film and with modern film, Christian Bale.
Right.
I think the way that he is willing to put his body through whatever it takes to get the performance is kind of incredible / insane. Anybody who's seen The Machinist,
Right.
I mean, it's just insane. Laurie Metcalf, I think her ability for both drama and comedy is just incredible. And I hope that I can be as brave as she is in some of her choices. I think that she's I think she was underrated for a long time. I think that people are getting over that mistake, and she's getting some of the credit that she's due.
Right. I mean, she's been with Steppenwolf for years and years, but people just saw her as the sister on Roseanne, you know, it's so great
Yeah,
now. People are
exactly.
recognizing her for her talent.
Yeah, no, she's pretty incredible.
Someone said TV makes you famous, the theater makes you good.
Yes.
And you know the Dustin Hoffman and Laurence Olivier story for Marathon Man, right, Randy?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah, yeah.
For a long time, I mean, and still do. I love Mandy Patinkin, just for his musical theater stuff. And then I'm thankful for parents that raised me watching old films. So we watch a lot of the classics. Still, you know, any given day you'll find TCM on in our house, and so Marlon Brando is just always going to be a favorite of mine. I actually have a ring with his face on it, and people are like, "Oh, is that your dad?" And I'm like, no, but
Let me go ask Mom. Let me find out.
Really?
You have to watch. I just rewatched A Face in the Crowd with Andy Griffith from 1957 on HBO, and it's so relevant now. It's amazing, you know.
It is.
wow.
And O'Neill's pretty good in that too.
Yeah.
Mhm. Do either of you have a worst audition story you want to talk about?
I'll go on that one. I'll go first. I just because it's still fresh in my mind. Actually, I think it's actually been. I'm going to get this right. 18 months or so. But anyway, I auditioned for A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder at Raleigh Little Theater a couple seasons ago. And it was the worst train wreck of an audition that I've ever had. I love to sing, and I love to sing, but I also know that there are some incredible voices in the triangle. So I was just hoping for a callback and maybe an ensemble role. Just hoping, just crossing my fingers, right? And I had picked the song Ice Cream from She Loves Me, which is one of my favorite songs. And I'd been practicing it, but practicing it with a track, which is not the same thing as practicing it with the piano. And I mean, I think it was a piano track, but still, it's just not the same, right? And I can't even tell you what happened. I got off rhythm, it was mortifying. I wanted to sink through the floor. It was so bad that, well, first off, let me just preface this also with, out of the group that I auditioned with, I want to say 3 of the 4 leads plus half the ensemble were in the group that I auditioned with.
No pressure. Yeah.
Right. But it was so bad that when I left, another one of the auditioners was just like, it just kind of gave me a face like, I'm so sorry that happened. And then the next day, another one of the auditioners emailed me and complimented me for the grace that I had in getting off stage. You know, like, it happens to everyone. It's okay. Like, we all knew it was bad.
Right.
So, and here I am to tell the tale. I survived.
We all had those stories.
I personally hate auditions. I don't mind them so much as a director, but I hate them as an actor because I never have stage fright on stage. It's just not a problem, you know. But auditions, my knees quake, my hands shake. It's just, you know, something about it. And particularly if there's certain people in the room that I really respect. And I have had the problem that she had with moving from a track to a live piano and train wreck. I did that at Cary one night and really embarrassed myself. And then the worst thing I think was I went to a Theater Raleigh audition, one of the first times I auditioned over there. I still have never been cast there, probably because of this audition. But I was doing a piece from The Angry Young Man, and I went up on the first line, and I just could not get it back. You know, David Henderson was in the room, Kennedy was in the room, and I think some New York agents and stuff, and my knees just shuddered and shook. I finally just said, "I'm sorry, I can't do this," and I had to go. And the other story I'll tell just because of the politeness of it, I did an audition one time over at the Theater in the Park, one of the first ones I did over there, and our David Wood was doing the audition. He did not end up directing this show. I think Jesse Gephardt did. But anyway, David called me over and he says, "You know, you tremble a little." And I said, "Auditions, I never do this on stage." And he said, he looked at me, he said, like Bob Newhart, stop it. He said, I put my pants on the same way you do.
That's great.
And I thought that was very, very nice. Larry's smiling because he evidently knows him.
I get really nervous at auditions as well, and I somehow get more nervous auditioning for David, even though I've done, several shows with him and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I did get cast in that show, and I also got cast in a couple others, so it must not have scared them too badly.
Right. Can
But
you?
the whole deal is we survived.
I know. You just, and no matter how bad you feel when you don't get a part, it's not like anyone remembers it. It's not like 6 months later, say, hey, I remember you didn't get cast in that play. People just completely forget about it and stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. What was that play that Abby did with you?
So can you guys tell us some of the favorite shows you've been in and why?
Well, you said shows, so I give you a couple. I did one of the early productions of Godspell. I think it was 75 or 76. And it was just delightful. I'll never forget it. Had the chance to do it again 40 years later here in the Triangle. But that 76 show was just wonderful because the audience was so ready to see it and the energy. But the primary thing that I loved about the show was one of the first times that I really understood the meaning of an ensemble cast, just loving one another, working together, and then drawing the audience in. To me, theater is a collaborative art. There are no, it's the old saying, there are no stars, there are no big roles, there are no small roles. We're all just going out there making brush strokes on a canvas, if you will. And one brush stroke replaces the other. It's collaborative. And at the end of the night, we have, hopefully we painted a masterpiece. And the audience, by the way, gets to put the final brush strokes on.
Right.
And that show was where I first experienced that, because the audience just was, it was done in a thrust stage dinner theater. They surrounded us and they were just completely drawn in. A couple other shows I'd mention, Memphis at RLT was delightful. Just for what it said, and so much young talent. And sorry, blood dumps in my name.
We cry all the time, Randy. So just
Blood Done Sign My Name was another just
Right.
Oh yeah.
powerful experience with an audience so close you could touch them, and who responded. And Of Mice and Men at Theater in the Park with Jesse Gephardt directing and doing Lenny. It just, those shows were the kind where every night, and it's not that you live for applause or stuff, but the audiences just exploded out of their seats, because of the experience. And when you've touched an audience and when they join that collaboration like that, it's just the best.
Yeah.
Amen.
For me, he mentioned it first, and Larry, I swear it's not just because you're on the screen with me. I loved Prelude to a Kiss. It was special.
Oh, was that one?
It's one of my favorite shows too.
It was just, I think that Bob and that cast, working with you, working with Aaron, working with everybody in that show, honestly, I think that we made it deeper than what people were expecting.
Right.
And I remember telling people, that, first off, they're like, oh, I think I've heard that title. And then you remind them that it was a movie. And then it's like, but don't judge it on the movie. Come see this show. It's really special. And it was. I have just the experience of getting to be Rita and getting to be the old man and playing off of you and Aaron every night. It was just a highlight for me. I love it. And then we were in a comedy, a really silly farce several years ago called The Amorous Ambassador. And that's another one where the cast made it so much more than just the farcical script that it was. It was really, really special. Aaron and I were actually in that show together.
Oh.
That was one of the first shows that Aaron and I did together. And I mean, it really is over the top and silly. We had so much fun. I made some really, really dear friends out of that cast. And it was just a special time. It was not the first time we shared a stage together, but I mean, you had people rolling in the aisles every night, just and again that audience participation and knowing how much they were enjoying it, and we just had a blast with it. We were having fun on stage.
She had to resist my wiles.
No, I was your secretary. That was not one. I think the implication was there that maybe, anyway.
I was the Amorous Ambassador, so I would have chased her for sure.
Yeah.
By the way, Larry, I just never have understood how you beat me out on that old man card. I mean, look at us. Who's old?
I know. They went for the shorter actor. But I want to ask you something, Randy. One of my fantasies, which will never happen, is that for me to perform with my daughter or my stepson on stage. And in my warped mind, I think, and you guys both, all three of us know what this is like, is when you're connected with the actor on stage, and those moments, they're not real, but you're so connected that it's fabulous. There's nothing better than that. And I keep thinking, oh my God, what if I did that with my daughter or my son? Or is it just like performing with anybody else on stage? So you've done it with Abby. Have you had like serious moments together on stage? And
well, most of the stuff that we've done has been comedy.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I wanted to do Prelude. But at any rate, it's been really a joy to watch her. She probably does not enjoy it as much as I do, because
she does.
On the ride to the theater and on the ride home, I'm taking it apart and saying, try this, try that. The director in me comes out, and she probably doesn't enjoy having a second director.
I think the biggest thing, we've worked together with him as director and me as his stage manager / assistant director several times. And I always have to remind him in the first couple weeks, especially, that you've been sitting with this script for probably 3 to 6 months getting ready, and your actors have to catch up with you. Like you've got to give people time to get to what you see in your head. So
I will say, for me, the collaboration as director and stage manager has been far more rewarding in many ways than acting, because her input is just invaluable. And she can say things to me as her dad that she would normally say to a director, and so that's been a part of it. And I think that's a part of the acting thing when we're together too. We can say things to one another that we probably wouldn't say to another actor, and that is special. So it is really enjoyable, Larry, to have them out there with you. At least from the father standpoint. I don't know.
No, it's always been a good experience. Because it's just another opportunity to learn, and to build memories and stuff like that. My brother is a singer in a local group, and my sister is staying in high school, but neither one of them had the theater bug. Although I've tried to push both of them to audition at various points, and so it's special that I get to share this.
Definitely.
Yeah. We did Lend Me a Tenor together, and I did have to seduce her.
Yeah, that was they cut to black as soon as they could on that scene.
Oh, good.
That's good.
Yeah.
Is there a role you've always wanted to play?
Oh gosh. The lead in everything I've ever auditioned for. Really, I'm going to rattle off some stuff here, and they're all shows that I've been in and auditioned for, but I auditioned hoping I'd get the the roles. I would still love to do Sheridan Whiteside in The Man Who Came to Dinner. Although the play's dated, I think there are ways to bring it up to date. And I just think the bombastic radio announcer is me. I'd love to do Falstaff in the Merry Wives of Windsor. I had a chance to do some readings for Falstaff, but I just think it's a great part. Big Daddy,
Yep.
Cat, Brady in Inherit the Wind,
Oh, yeah.
Loman, of course, and then one I haven't thought about quite so much. Doubt it'll ever come around, but Joe Keller.
Oh,
love
yeah.
Arthur Miller. I just love Arthur Miller.
Mhm.
And
Oh,
Joe
I
Keller,
love that play.
Yeah, and all my sons, just great stuff.
Yes.
That's too much, Kathleen. I'm sorry, but
Not at all.
I'm old enough where I'm now looking at these juicy old guy parts. So
I hear you.
I would love, it's always been a dream role of mine to do Sarah Brown and Guys and Dolls. That was one of the first musicals I fell in love with. So Sarah Brown, Tracy Turnblad, even though I'm too old for it now, I would love that.
You don't look too old for it. So.
And then Beatrice in Much Ado About Nothing. She's just I think my favorite Shakespeare rom-com lead. She's so quick-witted and so sharp, and then she has real moments of despair and depth and passion. And I would love to do that. So yeah, those are a few of my dream roles.
That's great.
There's a role you'd be really good in, Abby. It's a 2-person show called Wool Gatherer. And I did it in 1999, but you'd be really great for the female lead in that part.
I will write that down.
Right. Great show. Yes. So when you're on stage, as an actor, or, well, I guess as a director too, but what type of actor do you hope is on that stage with you?
Well, for me, I'm a little bit of a stickler for lines because I don't think you can work character till you know the lines. Again, words have meaning, characters have intent. So I like to be on stage with people who, at least somewhat know their lines.
That's the bare minimum.
Somewhat.
I think that's the bare minimum. But outside of that, I like to be with people who are listening and in the moment. It goes back to the beginning for me. I just think there's some basics that work well. And, it's interesting in community theater, Kathleen, because I find there are two kinds of people, on the stage at any given moment. There are people who are just doing this because, oh, that sounds like fun. I'd like to do a play. And then there are those of us who are in love with the art and have a passion for the art. And that doesn't make us any better than the person who's just doing it for fun. It really doesn't. It's, but it does mean, at least from my point of view, that in the way I handle myself, and I'm not going to say professionally because I'm not getting paid like everybody else on stage, but I am going to say I need to draw them into that passion for the art, because it's saying something. I don't care whether it's comedy or drama. It's saying something. It's touching people. It's drawing them in, and so I want to be on stage with an actor who at least is getting the idea that that's what we're doing.
Yes. Abby.
For me, I'd say I want to be on, again, knowing your lines is the bare minimum. And it's amazing how many times I think we've both, learning lines is a process, but man, it can be a scary dance when you're up there with someone who does not.
Right.
Every night is an adventure. But for me, it's also about making bold choices and being willing to plumb the depths together of intent and lines. I mean, Larry, again with Prelude, I remember you and I we would have some like in-depth conversations about, well, do you think the old man would do this? Do you think Rita, how do you think he's feeling right now? And I mean, it was just you and I could spin out, but also help each other find balance and grounding about that. And I think that's part of the fun of it. Like, you know, the rehearsal process and getting there and digging in and being with actors who are going to ask questions and be curious and make big choices. And yeah, the kind of fearlessness that it takes.
Well, also
need to be fearless.
Having those conversations though beforehand is really important because it makes you both stronger. So you're on the same page, you know where you're going.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, we all have great moments on stage. Can you guys tell us a couple of yours?
Yeah, I think the moments that stand out for me are moments where there's a transition in character that takes the character someplace that the audience was not expecting. For instance, a couple of things I might point out. In my younger life, I did Cuckoo's Nest with Billy Bibbit. And of course, after the night of partying, there's the comeuppance from Nurse Ratched. And he goes from a young man who's, you know, grown up a bit and had this experience, and he stands up to her and he defends his woman, low that she may be. And then all of a sudden he is crushed to a sniveling child. And to make that transition in the matter of a few lines and to basically hear the audience just, you know, gasp.
Oh, it's a heartbreaking scene.
Yeah, and that's there. And Blood Doesn't Sign My Name, you know, when there was a scene where I, you know, I was going to hit the young man, and I was so angry as Robert Teal, I was going to hit the man who was interviewing me, and I could literally hear the audience gasp. And then later in the show, when we kill the African American, and I yell, you know, kill the N-word, which was not pleasant. To hear the audience just go silent, aghast, and to have them say good, bad, or ugly, in many of those cases, oh my God, that's me.
Right.
You know, those are the moments. Those are the moments when you can take a character, you know, who they're following, they may be laughing, they may be engaged, they may hate the guy, but then they all of a sudden go, oh my God, that's me.
Yeah.
I've done that.
Right.
You know, I've been there. That's the moment for me.
Wow.
I don't have anything quite so powerful. I haven't had the opportunity with those types of parts or scripts yet necessarily.
That's good.
But with Prelude, you know, I remember getting a comment about the chemistry that we had built after, and it makes me happy when an audience can feel that. I mean, like, that's what I'm going for. I remember the first time I felt like in the moment, I guess per se, like I had lost, I don't know, I was rehearsing for Little Women in Smithfield, North Carolina. And with Tony Pender, if you haven't had a chance to work with him, he's a lot of fun. I love Tony. And there was a scene where I was Meg and Mr. Brooke is proposing, and he takes her hand, which, you know, in 1860s, that was pretty forward for him to take her hand. And then Aunt Marge walks in and catches, you know, them holding hands, and I blushed, and I like got so excited that you know that, and then it was all about, wait, you know, that was rehearsal. How can I get there every night now, you know? And I remember trying to find that with Prelude, trying to find those moments of connection, and just getting lost in the characters, remembering the audience is there, wanting to take them on that ride, but also forgetting the audience is there and being fully present. Oh crud, I just had a memory and it had flitted away.
a couple of years ago, I directed a play at Carrie called 1940s Radio Christmas Carol. I'd done the show a year or two earlier at New School Theater. Characters William St. Clair and Scrooge. He does Scrooge in a radio play. But St. Clair has lost his son as a pilot in World War II. And as another one of those transition scenes where, again, you've got the audience laughing and they're having all this fun and laughing. And then St. Clair, like Scrooge, has a awakening. He has an absolute awakening that his son is dead. And he has a breakdown. Again, in a matter of moments, he's going from this hilarity to the depths of human emotion. And it's in a play that's pretty much comedy throughout, but it has this one moment. And again, it's a place where I heard people break into tears, you know. I just think those are powerful moments. And I think any actor, even if it's not a lead role like St. Clair, if it's Bibbit or it's a character role, you know, when you have the chance to go in a few lines from here to here and hear the audience go, it's just amazing. And I love to create that as a director as well. That's why Loman will always be such a great character, and so glad to have had the opportunity to do that Miller piece as well as the Crucible. And you know, there's just some great writing, you know. Sorry, I had to get that in there. You can edit it out, Larry.
Oh no, it's all good. Now, if you guys could go back in time and talk to your younger self, what advice would you have told yourself?
I would, you know, again, with the making big choices, I think that's one of the biggest things that I've learned from watching Dad as director, from Tony, from a few other directors that I've worked with. They can always rein you back. They can always help you put the brakes on, but also making those big choices in the audition space is where you can stand out. Where you know, and if you're partnering in an audition, you have to be sure that your audition partner is on the same page, you know, and stuff like that. But making those choices to be vulnerable and to put yourself out there, or to be big, or like if it's a comedy, you know, to you know, truly clown around and you know, go for broke. I just think I would tell myself to try and get out of my head. We did Crime to the Heart a couple of seasons ago. He directed, and I was concerned because there's a lot of crying in that show. It's actually a gothic comedy. It's quite funny. There's a lot of crying. And I you know, so finding the ways to get out of my own head. If I could have learned that younger, it would have made things a little easier.
I'm sure the two of you as directors, for me, I mean, it's like she says, I can always pull somebody back,
right?
But pulling them forward is hard, you know. And so I've kind of told her, you know, go big or go home, because you know, a director can work with one, the other one he doesn't know, he still doesn't know.
And to do that, you have to get out. You have to let go of any notion of, do I look pretty while I'm doing this? Do I look comfortable while I'm doing this? You just have to let go.
I would tell myself if I could go back all those years ago, I would say stress less. You know, the parts will come. And I would also tell myself earlier, I would try to learn earlier that it's a collaborative art,
right? And
that it's about communication. I would say to myself, it's not about me. It's not about me. Randy, it's not about me. It's not about you, Randy. It's about the art. It's about communicating. And so, you know your character. And I would tell young actors, particularly a mistake I think I see, and I'm not God's gift to theater, but I think a lot of people look at their lines and they try to draw their character out of their lines. There's generally so much more about your character in what people say about you,
right,
or to you. And Arthur Miller is a master at this, by the way. In The Crucible, he has characters who aren't ever on stage with you, say stuff about you that you need to know about your character, you know. And so I would say, read the script, do the scene study to know your character, because that's where it's at. You know, this guy wrote this with intent. And so find the intent for your character. And it's sometimes not in your lines, it's in what other people have said to you or about you to other characters. So, and I think good actors do that. That's just my 2 cents worth. So I'd say that to myself younger.
I had, Kathleen's heard this before, but almost every play I work on, the character is always in my head and I'm always thinking about the character. But suddenly I'll watch something on TV and suddenly it will relate to me. It's like, hey, that kind of reminds me of my character. It's like everything in my life during a rehearsal process is about my character in a sense. It's real hard, unless I'm at work, to just break character and just, okay, not think about the part.
I do every song I hear on the radio or that I'm listening to on Spotify or Amazon. Like I build a soundtrack in my head for the entire play, and for my character, for other characters. You know, I do the same thing, Larry.
I think I can't remember. I think it was Meryl Streep. I heard recently say something like, "As actors, what we do is watch and imitate people." Right. You know, and I think there's some truth to that. I remember the first time I sat in a park and I watched people walk, and I figured out that pregnant women walk on 2 planes like a man, right, while most women walk on 1 plane. And you know, and I mean that's, you know, that's a hard fast stereotype, and I don't mean it, you know, in any kind of gender ugly way. I just mean that I'm watching people and I happen to notice, you know, that, oh, men walk like this and women walk with 1 foot in front of the other, and pregnant women go back the other way. And you know, I just think that you know, you watch people and you apply what you've seen.
Or you hear an interesting voice and you tuck it in the back of your head for, you know, or an interesting laugh or something like that. I might be able to use that down the road. Yeah.
There was some famous actor who said just recently that you have to, every character has to have a unique laughter. You have to have a unique laughter for every character you play.
Yeah. I read that too, and I don't remember where we read it, Larry, but I read that too. And it, you know, it is an interesting thought about how, like, if I have the voice for someone, but then when they laugh, it's my laugh. You know, I mean, that might take someone out of the scene. It's got to be something that you work on, like anything else.
Right.
But that's hard though. A different laugh for every character.
What's the first thing you guys both want to do when we get out of this pandemic and we go back to a semi-normal life?
I want to do the zoo story with you.
Oh, I would love to do the zoo story.
Do it. Make it happen. That would be awesome.
We're probably a little out of age for that, but it might be interesting. Now, I would love to get the entire theater community together someplace for food and fellowship, maybe some drinks, and have one big group hug, and then get back to communicating the way only we can, you know, moving people and touching them and making them laugh, making them cry. And again, that's not to sound like we're all fat-headed. It's just the art is so wonderful, and to be without it all these months, and not totally, but you know, like I said, you know, I did radio for 40 years, and we lived in Dallas, Fort Worth. We lived in Houston. We lived in Kansas City. You know, we lived in a bunch of major markets. We lived in some medium markets. There's no place as flush with theater as Raleigh, and the art's alive and well here, and I just long to see it, you know, back and active. The other thing I'll just mention by way of, you know, is I haven't in my head still yet to produce the Gen game and do Weller. I'm getting that age. I just still think I have something to say to us baby boomers and the generation behind us. And I've been trying to do that for several years, but there's an actress, I can't twist her arm hard enough or something. Anyway.
Let me tell you right now, I've been trying, Kathleen would be absolutely wonderful in the female lead in that part. I keep telling her, you are Jessica Tandy, you know.
You know,
Very sweet.
it's a
Of course,
great
she's
role.
20 years too young, but.
And then I've got, I guess one of the first things I'll be doing, looks like, if all things go well with these vaccines and all, is I want to do justice to the Diary of Anne Frank, which I'm scheduled to direct at Forest Moon in June. So, and that's, I think it's a hard play to do justice to in our day, just because the message is a hard one.
Right.
You know, and people have seen it, but it still has more to say.
Right.
Mine is, you know, outside of all the theater stuff, because I mean, like, I do miss theater, and I mean, I was in the middle of rehearsals when this all happened, so I want to get back to it. But outside of theater, I also can't wait for live music to come back.
Yeah.
I am a live music junkie, and I honestly would go to at least one concert a month. Even when I was in plays, I would find a random Tuesday night or whatever to go see a show. And so I miss that community as well. I miss the camaraderie of being in a group of people and sharing a love for the music that's coming off the stage and the artists who are putting that out there as well. So, I mean, I guess it still comes back to art and communication and love, but I miss live music a lot.
Right.
I am ready for live music to be back. And I know that, you know, our independent restaurants and independent bars and breweries and all the little pubs and all the little concert halls, all the way up to the big concert venues, they miss us too. They're ready for us to come back.
Yes, I'm sure they are. Wow. Wow. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This has been such a lot of fun, and especially hearing the two of you talk about each other and about your experiences together. That's just such a delight. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to share our passion for this wonderful art and for the things you both do in the theater community as well. Look forward to working with you sometime down the road, and we do appreciate the opportunity. God bless you both, and God get us back to this art we love.
Yeah.
What I love about this series that Kathleen and I work on is that I just learned more about so many other actors and realized we're all very similar, like, you know, our insecurities, our strengths, and what we all want and stuff. And it's just been a good learning experience for me to do this series with Kathleen.
It's reassuring that we're not alone, you know.
I thank you both for putting it out there, for getting other people in the triangle and everything. I love hearing the stories. It's been really informative and really entertaining. I really appreciate it, and I was honored to get your to be a part of it. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Larry. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
See you soon, hopefully.
Have a great holiday.
Yes. Thank you.